In a small village on the edge of the African savannah lived a poor widow named Ao and her 2 children, Layla and Kofi. Their hut was weak, their clothes were worn, and hunger was a frequent guest in their home. Some nights they slept with empty stomachs, listening to the sound of their own breathing to distract themselves from the pain. Yet Ao never allowed bitterness to enter their hearts. She would often tell her children, "We may not have much, but kindness is a wealth no one can take from us." Not far from their home lived Baraka, the richest man in the village. His land was wide, his granaries were full, and his animals were many. But he was known not for kindness, but for pride. He believed wealth was a sign of superiority, and he despised the poor, especially those who smiled despite having nothing. He often watched Ao's family from a distance, wondering how they could still laugh in their condition. One dry afternoon, when the sun burned fiercely and the wind carried only dust, Ao sent Layla and Kofi into the forest to gather firewood. As they walked, tired and thirsty, they found an old woman sitting beneath a dying tree. Her voice was weak, and her lips were cracked. She asked for water. The children hesitated, knowing the small gourd they carried was their only water for the long journey home. But remembering their mother's words, Layla knelt and gave the old woman the gourd. The woman drank slowly, then looked at them with eyes full of quiet power. She handed them a simple calabash and told them it would never be empty for those who knew how to share. Before they could thank her, she disappeared. When they returned home and showed their mother, Ao was unsure what to believe. But when she reached inside the calabash, she found fresh rice. She reached again and found beans, then maize flour. No matter how many times she reached inside, it remained full. Tears of relief filled her eyes. That night, they ate until they were satisfied. But Ao did something unexpected. She shared their food with neighbors who were also hungry. Days passed and their lives slowly improved. Their hut was repaired, their strength returned, and hope settled into their home. Baraka noticed the change. He watched as the family that once struggled began to live in peace. Suspicion and envy grew inside him. One night, he crept close to their hut and saw Ao pulling endless food from the calabash. His heart burned with greed. He decided he must have the same power. The next day, Baraka went to the forest and waited beneath the same tree. When the old woman appeared and asked him for water, he lied and claimed he had none, hiding his full gourd behind him. The old woman looked at him silently, then handed him a calabash. Excited, Baraka ran home, believing his wealth would become endless. But when he reached inside, a swarm of angry insects burst out and stung him painfully. He screamed and ran, but the insects chased him across his compound. From that day forward, his luck turned against him. His crops failed, his animals died, and his wealth slowly disappeared. Meanwhile, Ao's family continued to prosper. They never stopped sharing, never stopped helping others, and their kindness returned to them in many ways. They became respected, not just for what they had, but for who they were. And Baraka, who once had everything, was left to watch and remember the moment his greed cost him his future. Moral of the story: kindness invites blessings, but greed chases them away.